Hello everyone. Just a thought really that came to mind pretty much on the last weekend. I was teaching at Soul Space in Essex, and we were talking there about clairvoyance. And many of you would already know, of course, you can either see in your head or see outside of your head. So we would term that objective or subjective, but don't worry too much about that just yet. But a thought that came up really was, if, God forbid, any of us as mediums were to go blind physically, is it possible to still see objective clairvoyance? Now, I've been thinking about this last few days. I think it's really quite an interesting thought, really, because for me, my mediumship works very much where I see imagery but inside my mind, and oftentimes those that have watched me work, you'll see me closing my eyes and sometimes with my hand almost to my face, and it really helps me to concentrate on what it is I'm truly seeing. But there has been occasions where I've looked out into an audience, and quite commonly with animals especially, I'll see a bird fly in the room, a dog walk up to somebody, often dogs, cats, horses at my side, but I see them very much with my eyes open. There was an occasion, I think it must have been either earlier this year or possibly last year. I was working in Waterford in Southern Ireland, and I'm talking to the group, and suddenly my head's drawn to my left hand side, and I look down and I can see as clear as day a little boy in a wheelchair, and it was possibly one of my finest contacts, and I remember it clearly. But he was looking up at me, and I could see him looking at me like he was external from me as opposed to in my mind. So I don't really know if I am fully aware of the answer as yet, but I think certainly if we had no eyesight, and I've worked with a number of blind mediums before, or people with are visually impaired, I think it's almost impossible to have objective clairvoyance, because simply we don't give it the scope and separation from thoughts of our own. We have to almost create the space and out of us here for spirit to come stand. Now, if any of you, of course, listen and work in this field and have issue with eyes, I think then it will just simply make your subjective, your inner seeing clearer, because there is no outward word I best use, outward interference, maybe that's the best thing to say. And it's not particularly important one way or the other, but it's just interesting, isn't it? And I think what I find most interesting about mediumship is the mechanics of it, because truly, if we were to know exactly how it works and how it works for us as we develop, as you develop, and again, even those of you that are thinking, I don't know if I can even do it yet, you'll be surprised. We can become their masters of our own mediumship and start really to expand and widen the repertoire of our own knowingness and really bring it alive in this way. I'm in Market Drayton, behind the stage, waiting to go on, maybe in 10-15 minutes, etc. So I shall be interested this evening just to see how much objective and subjective clairvoyance I get, and maybe I'll come to a firmer understanding a little bit later. I've been handed a little flyer, and I'm always reticent to do this kind of thing, but if any of you wanted to study with me and you have access to the UK and you live anywhere near or prepared to travel to Scarborough in Yorkshire, I'm there for 2 days in February 2018, 9th to the 11th, and I'm working with 2 other mediums, and these courses we create are really there for you to gather, whether you'll be absolute novices, I mean completely green, to work in mediums. So we simply divide people into 3 classes and work with people accordingly, making sure you get to speak to everyone. So if you would like to come and study with me, Yorkshire's the most beautiful place. February could be nippy, but we'd have a good time, I'm sure. But those of you who are working with spirit, Don't be afraid to challenge and make your mediumship and make your spiritualism, if that applies to you, make it bigger. Let's keep expanding it now, really help it to grow, that it makes sense for the next generation. Anyway, I'll sign out there. Thanks for listening to me.